Hey there, how's it going? Get up here. This is part 2 of my Eberron QED history videos focused on the modern age. If you haven't watched part 1,
just do it!
Last time on Eberron QED, King Galifar had collected all 7 dragon shards and was preparing for the arrival of his new vegetable-named foe by training in the hyperbaric time room and calling forth the dragon for wishes. That's not entirely correct. What did happen is that King Galifar, the first of his name, and his 5 children, Kyrie, Karn, Thrain, Onder, and Bray, successfully take control of the 5 main human nations of Khorvaire and unite them into the kingdom of Galifar. This was generally considered a grand day, and there was much rejoicing. Although there was the usual political maneuvering one would expect from a newly unified, almost continent-wide kingdom, things actually stayed pretty calm and smooth for a remarkably long time. This is the beginning of a new advancement age. King Galifar I wanted to advance his kingdom to new heights, and thus, in the year 15 YK, he formed the Arcane Congress in the village of Arcanix. The Arcane Congress was tasked to delve further into the studies and mysteries of the arcane arts and other mystical studies. In the year 28 YK, after decades of relative peace, the kingdom of Galifar attempted to bring the free people of Lhazaar under its rule. This sparked almost a decade of war, including some of the greatest naval battles ever seen. Eventually, the area was officially claimed and ratified as the Lhazaar Principalities, which then pledged loyalty to the throne of the Kingdom of Galifar. In reality, the war was proving costly with no real benefit to either kingdom, and the Lhazaar Principalities was still its own independent entity in practice, while officially part of the kingdom. In the year 32 YK, the 5 main human nations of the kingdom officially took their names from those of King Galifar's children, naming themselves Kyrie, Karnath, Thrain, Onder, and Brayland. It is also around this time that the rebuilding of the city of Sharn begins over top of the ruins of the old city, which is built on the ruins of an older city, which is built upon other ruins, which is built over an ancient gateway. Oh hell, it's just like a weird-ass layer cake of disappointment and age-old destruction at this point. In the year 40 YK, Galifar I realizes his old ass probably won't last much longer, so he decides to step down and names Kyrie his heir. In 53 YK, King Galifar dies. Some say it was fighting a half-dragon, half-bear godling. Some say it was noosed to a door holding a bucket of lube. Most just agree it was probably quiet in his bed. I mean, dude was almost a century old in what amounts to a medieval society. In the year 106 YK, House Kundarak was officially recognized and the dwarves officially begin their new long lives as bankers, security specialists, and corporate goons. The year is now 299 YK, and the kingdom is remarkably stable, but the people decide there isn't enough religion in their lives and create the cult of Scientology. The Church of the Silver Flame. I'll touch upon the church a little bit more in a future video on religions in Eberron. Skipping ahead to the year 347 YK, we see the nation of Onder take possession of an island off their own coast and make what is known as Stormhome. Wow, almost 350 years in the kingdom and that's what we have for news? In the year 498 YK, House Sivis discovers the Mark of Finding while exploring the Shadow Marches. House Tharashk is created shortly afterwards. In 512 YK, the Starpeaks Observatory is created so that scholars and lore masters can look at the twinkly pretties in the sky and remark at how they totally aren't balls of burning gas untold large distances away from them. In the year 600 YK, the entire dwarven clan of Noldrun disappears entirely without explanation. The other dwarven clans don't actually seem to care so much since Noldrun was apparently the red-headed stepchild of the dwarven clans. A battle amongst the dragons begins around the same time, after the dragon Arnalasha dies and the city he protects seems weakened. It was not. They defended themselves and there was dancing in the streets. The city of Cazhaak Draal was claimed in the year 778 YK by a legion of Medusas. pack of Medusas, herd of Medusas, slither of Medusas, like a shit ton of snake people that can turn shit to stone. You could say that the people of the city were petrified by what they saw. In the year 783 YK, a huge advancement was made as the first speaking stones were created. Once the communication stones were proliferated throughout the kingdom, the instant communication network changed the way the kingdom organized itself. Within only 6 years, message stations run by House Tharashk were already operational. In the year 797 YK, House Fiarlan kicks Mordain the Fleshweaver out for practicing the forbidden magics of the Dale Kier and for hanging around playgrounds with bags of candy for no apparent reason. I mean, come on guys. Mordain the Fleshweaver? Did you really not know something creepy was up with that? In the year 802 YK, the kingdom and the houses fund a joint operation to upgrade the frontier city of Stormreach in northern Zendrik. It was from here that they were hoping to springboard into more exploration and research ventures into the untamed continent. In the year 811 YK, another huge milestone is achieved as the first lightning rail project between Flamekeep and Fairhaven is created. No epic train heist has yet been held, but you know we're all waiting for it. In the year 832 YK, the Church of the Silver Flame gets a huge hate-on for lycanthropes. It's at this time they begin what is known as the Silver Purge. Over the course of the next half-century, almost all lycanthropes are eradicated from Corvair. In 845 YK, with the success of the initial Lightning Rail project, King Jarreau begins a massive public works project to connect the entire kingdom via a network of lightning rails. Over the next 20 years, new rail connections among the 5 nations, Zelargo, the Maror Holds, and the Talenta Plains would be created. In 873 YK, adventurers discover the Tower of Blackroot, and apparently the tower belongs to Mordain the Fleshweaver. Yeah, remember that guy? I guess just letting some creepy wizard leave with his creepy knowledge of creepy magic wasn't the best idea. 878 YK, House Deneth starts offering awesome goblinoid mercenary services to whomever wants it. In 890 YK, the Stormlord Omarin in the city of Stormreach attempt a coup of the other Stormlord families to become sole ruler. The Omarin revolt failed, but the family was allowed to retain its privileged status, albeit with some restrictions. After all, we all know celebrities and rich people don't have to abide by the same laws as us peons. In the year 894, King Jarreau of the Kingdom of Galifar dies, and his heir is peacefully chosen without consequence. The kingdom goes on to live happily ever after. I'm just kidding. His death causes a shit show among his kids, and they start the most horrifying war that the modern world has ever seen, all because they wouldn't accept who Daddy said was his favorite. The throne was supposed to go to the heir presumptive of Mishan, which is backed by her brother Rogar. But the other 3 doofuses of Thalan, Caius, and Roan had the most epic tantrum ever. After all, Galifar was their favorite toy, and royal nannies never stress that sharing is caring. Thus begins the Last War. Yeah, that last war, the one the campaign book is named after. In the year 896 YK, not noticing that epic shit was going down, or maybe because of it, the Order of the Emerald Claw was created. 897 YK, the Kingdom of Karrnath is having a rough go of it in the war that's now been ravaging the continent for 3 years. Caius gets desperate and does the only logical thing he could do. He goes to an ancient Lich Queen goddess thing that no one knows is secretly the last member of a slain dragon-marked house, and has started a religion based around herself known as the Blood of Vol, because, well, she named herself Vol. The Lich accepted the pledge of the nation of Karrnath, turned Caius into a vampire for funsies, and set up shop in the nation to raise a family in peace. And by family, I mean a legion of the undead for an army. Zombies. 13 years go by, and in 910 YK, the vampire Caius is gone. Caius II takes up the throne, for better or for worse. In 914 YK, the Dwarven lands of the Morrow Hold say, "Aim 8, this is too much," and declare its independence from the mewling scraps of the once great unified kingdoms. Around the same time, Thalon of Thrain dies, and the Church of the Silver Flame assumes control of the nation, turning it into a theocracy. 4 years later, in 918 YK, the city of Sharn, which has been largely untouched by the war until this point, has an explosive reminder that war exists. Saboteurs bring down the glass tower, crushing a part of the city and instantly killing hundreds. To escape the horrors of war in the year 928 YK, Duke Ven Erkeslin leads a group from Kyrie to the jungle lands south of the Talenta Plains and establishes the frontier nations of Kabara. Nobody really takes him seriously, but I mean, no one really cares at this point either. The war rages on, and in 946 YK, the frontier town of Stormreach is attacked by the Battalion of the Basalt Towers. However, in thanks to the giants of Roshim, they are able to withstand the attack relatively unscathed. In the year 956 YK, part of the nation of Kyrie was cleaved off by the Aranel Elves and renamed to be the nation of Valinar. In 958 YK, the hippies of the Eldeen Reaches declare themselves independent and that they only take orders from the Warder of the Wood and that old tree dude Oalian. In the 960s, you see Baranel becoming the king of Brayland, Zalargo formally aligning itself with Brayland in the war effort, House Cannith finishing the creation of the Warforged race, and Haruk leads a rebellion to create the nation of Dargun. In the 970s, you see House Thorani split off from House Fjarlin, the regent of Morana from Karnath outlawing the Order of the Emerald Claw. The 980s see glam rock bands rise in popularity along with video games. Wait, that's the 1980s. The 980s see Queen Auralia begin her reign as Queen of Onder. The hags known as the Daughters of Sora Kel begin invasion into the western Brayland with an army of trolls, ogres, and gnolls. The conquered land is declared the sovereign nation of Drome. In the early 990s, you see the first elemental airships go into service for House Lyrander. King Caius III begins his rulership of Karnath, and the 6-year-old Jayla Daran assumes power as the new keeper of the Silver Flame under the watchful eye of Chris Hansen. Then, in the year 994, the catastrophe known as the Morning obliterates the nation of Kyrie, turning it into a twisted and hostile wasteland that destroys or corrupts all organic living creatures inside of it. Also at this time, the Black Wheel Company opposes the Githyanki Lich Queen Vlakith. They successfully severed direct connections to the astral plane from the material world. No Githyanki or Githzerai have been seen since. You might say that 994 was kind of a big year. The people were in shock and awe, feeling shaken and uncertain. Conservatives, liberal, and Democrats all worked together. Price for salmon dropped at the same time that springy clothespins were invented. It was strange times indeed. In 996 YK, the last war officially ends with the Treaty of Thronehold. Hostilities cease, and the various nations are declared independent. House Cannith is commanded to destroy the forges that created the Warforged race, although remaining Warforged are still granted the same rights as other sentient beings. Finally, we come to the early days of the year 998 YK. This is considered the present, and this is the time when your adventures normally begin. Thank you for joining me for the second half of the Modern Age. We will be going to many more of these things in detail in the future. Don't forget to check out my live streaming on twitch.com/ketup and get more information there, as well as the links to our Discord community down below. Lots of awesome freebies, including some graphics overlays for content creators and streamers, and many other awesome things. Alright, stay healthy, stay safe, and and have a good one, eh?